Okay, I got it. So this has to be our bad one, I hope. A little cruddy in there. Piece of shit. Yeah, it was it. Here's my oversimplified and non-electrician's view of what's going on here. You got a string of LED Christmas lights. This set is working. Every bulb is lit. So if you take out that very first bulb and put your tester in there, you should get whatever your household voltage is. It's 120 volts. Now you take that bulb, put it back in, and take the second bulb out and measure that one. Well, it should be 3 or 4 volts less than the first one because there's a 3 to 4 volt voltage drop across blue or white LED bulbs. It's a little bit less for red and yellow. You can actually look up the numbers. The point being, it should be a little bit less each one, incrementally all the way down to, even 40 volts. And I actually had to go back and edit this video because depending on your string of Christmas lights, it may be a little more complicated because sometimes half your string will be lit and the second half won't be. The same principle applies. Pretend they're 2 separate strings. Okay, here's a set of LED bulbs that's not working. It could be a broken wire or it could be a fuse within the set, but it's not. It's one of the little hair-like wires that goes into these LED bulbs that break off or corrode. So you start measuring at the beginning of the string, you get the same values. 120 drops to 117, 114, 111, 108, but then you get to 0. I'll tell you right now, the last socket that has power is probably your bad bulb. Well, it is your bad bulb. It has to be. And every bulb before that has to be good because if it wasn't good, it wouldn't carry the voltage. Here you have an example of a 50 bulb string of LEDs. If you start from the plug to the right there, the first 25 aren't working, the last 25 are. The fastest way to approach this is to test the very first bulb closest to the plug. If you have voltage there, any significant voltage there, then go straight to the halfway point. If there's no voltage at the halfway point, you know the bad bulb is somewhere in those 12.5 bulbs from the halfway point to the very first. If there's no voltage at the first bulb, go all the way back to the last non-working bulb before the working LEDs and test the voltage there. There has to be voltage there. And if there's not, that's the bad bulb. Okay, so here I have I've only drawn out the 25 or so that aren't working. I can't remember how many are actually there. But I test one side of it. Doesn't matter which side I test first. Okay, I got 120 volts. I test the opposite side. It's 0. So I don't want to go test every single one of those bulbs. So I want to split it in half and find out what the voltage is at the halfway point. Of course, I had to get it exactly right. A little bit of a, I call that anal retentive. Okay, anyways, I test that bulb, the socket in the halfway point, it's 0. So I don't even have to worry about any of the bulbs from the very far right to the middle. Because right now I know that there's a bad bulb between the 120 and the halfway point. So I'm going to split that in half and I'm going to test the voltage there. Turns out I got good voltage there. So now I know the bad bulb has to be between that 111 socket and the middle where I tested 0. And it doesn't really matter what the numbers are here. The last socket with voltage is going to be the bad bulb. One of the things that threw me off when I started testing this way is that you can measure down this string and you'd have diminishing voltage till you got to zero, but that last one with good voltage, that last socket with good voltage wasn't the bad bulb. But what would happen is you go measure the far end and you'd find voltage again, and it would start diminishing back down towards the center. Now, I only found this on split strings where half was working and half wasn't. So you would find diminishing voltage going down to the string that was working, and then you get to zero, but that last good voltage wasn't the bad bulb. You had to go all the way to the far right and then start coming back with diminishing voltage to find that one. I think the wiring went something like this. And yes, I have to set an alarm to remember to say a prayer every day. You got to be able to do this with any standard multimeter. Just make sure it's set at AC voltage. That's usually the V with the squiggly line on top of it. Take the black probe from your multimeter and insert it into the plug that's away from the side that you have plugged into the wall. It doesn't matter which slit you put it in. Then take the red probe, take a light bulb out, and touch it to either one of the two contacts inside. One should be around 0 volts. The other one should be between 120 and 30 volts. Obviously, you want to make sure you don't touch the metal while you're sticking it in there. It's basically a live wire. If you don't know how to use a multimeter, if you don't know how to do this type of testing, take a course or get online until you're comfortable doing it, or get with somebody who is. When you do get to your culprit bulb, you're usually going to see what's going on. In this case, once again, it's that little thin wire. It comes out of the bulb and wraps around this plastic piece, which then jams into the socket. That wire breaks off. Just toss that whole thing away, put it in a fresh bulb, and Bob's your uncle. Well, we'll check it. It's going to have voltage. Anyways, it has to be that one. That was the last one in that string. Merry Christmas, everyone. God bless you all, and remember,